can do that. All right. Today is Sally's day. We're doing sacred communications using shadow work archetypes.
Oh, hi, everybody. I'm grateful to be here, grateful to share this. And what I'd like to do, if it's okay, is to just start with a small, short meditation to get present. I'll take you through the archetypes that we work with. So this is the sacred communication that I have taught is an all-day thing. So I'm going to give you an introduction, and I'm happy to answer any questions you have if you want to explore further. But I'll tell you, in the shadow work that I have been trained in, we work in 4 archetypes. And I'm just going to show you this. Now the key is, can I share? How do I share? File, maybe, huh? Basic. How do I share, I wonder?
Ooh, something's happening.
I don't really want that to happen. So I don't know what to do here. Let's see. You might see all my secrets on here. Then you won't want to ordain me. No, I'm just kidding. Can you see this? Okay,
Oh, that's
good.
beautiful.
Good. So I'm just going to take you through a quick meditation, and we will move through each of these archetypes, and I'm going to just speak to you a little bit about the energy of these archetypes. And I'll start with, this is how we were trained as shadow work facilitators, and this is what we believe. So I'm going to share with you what we believe, what I believe, adding a few things, of my own. You don't have to believe it, but I think it's important for you to know, where this is coming from. So you can take what you like and leave the rest. So I can't see you. I like to see my people. So let me see if I can come back to, I think I have to keep it like this so you can see it. So I'm just going to ask you to take a deep breath in through your nose. And exhale. Just take some deep breaths. And with every exhale, relax and let yourself sink in. If you feel comfortable closing your eyes, you're welcome to do that. And whenever thoughts come in that aren't here with us in the present, just notice them and let them go. Come back to your breath. Come back to my voice. So I'd like you in your mind's eye to see yourself standing somewhere, a place that you love perhaps, could be in your house if the weather's cold, and facing the east. Just pretend if you don't know which way is east. Just take a deep breath in the east. We say that is where the lover lives. And that lover energy is an energy we have inside of us. So when we call upon our lover energy, we pay attention to our breath. We are connected to our bodies. The gift of lover is connection. It helps us to identify what we're feeling, to be connected to ourselves, to be connected to others. The lover archetype inside of us is where our creativity is and our openness. Yeah. So as you take a deep breath, have perhaps one hand on some part of your body so you can really connect. I've got my hand on my heart. And just call in that lover energy, the part of you that is open, creative, connected, goes with the flow, connects to your feelings, and from that place connects with others. And just take a deep, bold breath. And we welcome lover. And then in our mind's eye, we can take a turn to the right, facing south. And in the south is where we say our warrior energy is. And the warrior energy inside of us, that's the part of us that's, feet on the ground. We know who we are. We have boundaries. We take action. This is the part of us that sometimes has to step in to protect the lover part of us. The warrior is about what's real, action. Let's take a deep breath. Feet on the ground, connected to your body and your lover, and connected to your warrior self. Take another turn to the right, and you're facing the west. The west is where the magician energy lives. And inside of us, our magician is the part of us that thinks and strategizes. It's the part of us that can change our perspective and see a whole new transformational view. The magician energy flies high above and sees a higher purpose to what's going on, perhaps. Our magician energy reminds us to detach so we can see more clarity. So while the lover's gift is around connection and the warrior's gift is around action, the magician's gift is around transformation and strategizing, perspective and wisdom. Take a deep breath and welcome your magician. And then in your mind's eye, you're going to take one more turn to the north, where we say our sovereign energy lives. And inside of us, this is the part of us that knows who we are. We have our agency. We know how to bless and support ourselves and others. And we have enough esteem to know we deserve that support as well. Our sovereign energy has vision for us. Our sovereign energy reaches high above us to a higher power, to a spirit. Our sovereign energy calls together the lover, warrior, and magician when we've got a vision we want to manifest. Sovereign energy blesses and protects our lover and our warrior and our magician. So lover feels, warrior acts, magician thinks, our sovereign speaks those visions. Just take a deep breath and imagine that all these energies live inside of you. So that's an introduction to the 4 archetypes we work with in shadow work. And we also believe that every archetype that lives inside of us, some of us are really naturally very supportive, very sovereign-y. So what I do, let me just say it this way. We believe we all have these energies, and we have gifts in these energies. There are tools and practices in these energies, and sometimes we're wounded, right? So we don't have access. For example, if our lover part of us has gotten wounded, we might not be able to feel our feelings. We might be involved in addictive behaviors because we don't know how to be connected to our emotions or ourself. If our warrior is wounded, it's possible we don't know how to take care of ourselves very well. We don't know how to manage even our money very well. We don't know how to act in our own best interest when our warrior is wounded. When our magician is wounded, we might be really confused, or we could be very rigid. We only see things one way. If our sovereign is wounded, it's possible that we know how to support and love others, bless them. We don't know how to receive that. Or we act as if we're like a la la la, la 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 la, without the depth and the connection of the other archetypes. So we have gifts in every archetype, and we sometimes have wounds in every archetype. I believe everybody's wounded. So I would say we're all wounded somewhere. And if you use this model, I think it's helpful to see what archetype might be wounded, because we have specific processes to help people heal in each of these archetypes. The other thing I will tell you is there is from these archetypes something that we call clean communication. I call it sacred communication. And we use these archetypes to help us communicate cleanly or sacredly. So what we do is we draw a way to speak from each archetype. And especially if there's some tension with someone or you have a conflict, we can I think our fear gets in the way of our being clean and our being direct. So if we can really know that we have this fear, but we have some tools to help us communicate, it can be very helpful. And in clean communication, I don't know about you, sometimes when I get angry, I say, you did this. In clean communication, we speak in I terms. And we take responsibility for what's going on inside of us. And we generally start with either the warrior or the lover. Lover is about feelings, remember. Warrior is about data, it's about action. Okay, so I might say, the first thing I'll tell you in communication, especially if it's a difficult communication, is I ask permission. Hey, are you available to communicate with me or hear me? I have something that I want to share with you. And once you get permission, what we do is, we do it often in a ritual kind of container. So we have people supporting the experience in our personal growth and shadow work containers. And what I believe is, as an individual, you can take whatever resonates with you from these tools. You can use it. You have to change the language a little bit, especially if you're communicating with strangers or at work. But there's ways to adapt these tools for any situation. So the first thing we do is again, it's either lover or warrior, it just depends. But generally, what the first thing I do once I have permission to communicate something is I identify how I feel. And for simplicity, and I think, I have a lot of opinions about people who don't want to put emotions in these categories, because I think it's just a way to avoid. But everybody's different. So take what you like and leave the rest. We say, for simplicity's sake, there are 5 primary emotions. And for the purpose of teaching emotional intelligence and this clean communication, we just tell people to stay there, right? So one of the feelings is mad. Another feeling is glad. Another feeling is sad. Another feeling is fear, afraid. And another feeling is shame. And shame is, that imposter syndrome, like, who am I? I'm not worthy. And, shame, we can be better than others, or we make ourselves less than others. But those are the 5 primary emotions. So when someone says to me, well, I'm confused, I'll say, let's call that fear. Well, I'm just agitated. Well, let's call that angry. We have a hard time really owning it. Well, I'm just a little disappointed. Well, let's call that angry and sad. And well, I'm really relieved and I feel really happy. Oh, you're experiencing some joy, some gladness. So we start with those 5 emotions. You probably don't want to see me, but I want to see you. So I'm coming back. Let's see if I can just come back to see. There you are. Oh, look, we have new people. So when we're doing a communication, we have permission, right? And that person is willing to talk with us. And we start by saying, I'm feeling, and some people do not believe you can have more than one emotion at once. I disagree. Sometimes I'm angry and sometimes I'm scared. Sometimes I'm sad and sometimes I'm joyful. I think our emotions can come together more than one at a time. So I might say how I feel. I feel angry. And then we go to warrior. What's the data? And just because you think I'm a, asshole doesn't mean I'm an asshole. That's not data, right? So what's the data? What could a fly on the wall see? I'm feeling angry. And, when we're 20 minutes late, the 3rd day in a row, then we go to magician, right? What did you make up about that? And you can make something up about me. I make stuff about myself all the time and others, right? So what did you make up about that? That's not data, but here's what I made up. And it could be true, it could be a true judgment, but we don't own our judgments as data. We own our judgments as opinions. And there's something really powerful when we can distinguish between the things that actually happen in our life from what we make up about it. because a lot of times we're making things up based on old wounds or just trying to protect ourselves. If we understand things, we feel like we're in control. If I can understand it, maybe I can control it. I feel sad. I feel angry. You were late for the third time this week. I make up, or my judgment is, or my opinion is that when that happens, I'm not valuable to you. And I also make up that you're pretty inconsiderate, whatever it is, right? And then we go to sovereign. I love this. We get to say what we want. Now, the funny thing is we tell people you can say whatever you want. Doesn't mean you're going to get it, right? So the maturity, when the sovereign is in their mature self, we know, okay, I might ask my friend to do this, I might not get it. I might ask my husband to do this, I might not get it. And we can say things like, I never, ever, 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 ever want you to be late again. And then we can laugh a little bit. Or we can say something like, I want to know if you're willing to share with me, what, is there a reason you've been late 3 times? And that individual has the right to respond or not respond. So it's very consensual. How do you feel? What's the data? Sometimes I start with the data. Here's the data. You didn't call me when you said you would. I feel angry about it. What I make up is whatever it happens to be. And here's what I want. And you can even say, I want you to let me know if you're going to be late. That's a more realistic, want to ask of someone. To ask someone they'll never, ever do whatever again is unrealistic. So there's our clean communication. It really begins with asking for permission, using I terms. We take responsibility for our feelings. The data is something everybody should see. We all, data should be similar. Sometimes you have problems. People don't remember things the same way. Then you're in another situation. But what did we make up about it? And I want to say again, it's so powerful to know the stories I make up in my head, because it's very easy to push people away. You did this and you don't like me and blah, 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 as opposed to really taking responsibility for what's going on. And then what do I want here? So that's a very general overview. I'll just tell you, we always tell this joke about a community where it was a co-gender community and 2 men wanted to do a clearing. And one of the guys said, okay, I feel like you're an asshole. You are an asshole. I think you're an asshole. I want you to stop being an asshole. Okay, that's not clean communication. But sometimes, things like that happen. We have to really learn how to communicate cleanly. So it's 30 minutes, Nikki, for me. And questions and answers, right? You're muted. Yes, you're muted.
Sorry. It's whatever you need. We suggest about 30 minutes and then go to Q&A, or you can enter Q&A here and now.
Okay, I'm going to give a little bit more information and then let's go into Q&A. It can be overwhelming, but I hope there was something of value there. So here's some things to keep in mind with sacred communication. Asking directly for what you want doesn't guarantee you'll receive it. And it's good to know what we want. Just because you follow the guidelines and take responsibility for your part does not mean the other person will. Anybody have that experience? Remembering that your priority in the communication is to be in integrity with yourself. We often will say that when there's a conflict and we need to do a clearing, we are actually clearing out what is in the way of my being connected to Nikki. Oh, I'm carrying this resentment or whatever it happens to be. Releasing expectations and desired outcomes will assist you in being fully in the moment and doing your part. And you will receive good information about the relationship, depending on how the other person shows up. And we're all wounded. So my experience is when I love someone, they disappoint me. We all are hurt when we love, but I choose to love. Sometimes doing the clear communication model with ourselves and seeing our own triggers what we're making up, or our projected shadows, right? I had a friend said something to me yesterday on the phone 2 days ago, and I said, I don't agree with you. I hear your opinion. That's not my experience of me. But I really thought that was her. So we're probably both, we project onto each other. That's just life. We can communicate what we love about another as well. Often these intimacies can be as challenging as resentments and frustrations. So a communication can be, I feel joy, I love you. These are things you do for me. It doesn't even matter how clean it is, but it's beautiful to use a communication model for that as well. We usually don't, we don't say, hey, can I have permission to look you in the eye and tell you what you mean to me? Each person involved in the sacred communication has the right to ask for support or be at choice. When we're learning to communicate through conflict, when we don't have a lot of skill, it can sometimes be overwhelming. And, everybody can call a timeout, take a breath, ask for support. Asking the person you wish to communicate with is, okay, so we talked about that. Just asking permission instead of assuming or diving right into something, especially if there's emotion. Responses after your communication and or feedback is your choice. I have done this process with the men in a community that I was involved with. And when I do the clearing, they say, okay, I want to give you feedback. I don't want feedback. What do you mean you don't want feedback? I get to choose. This was my clearing. You want to do a clearing with me, you ask permission, but that's neither here nor there. Everybody has a choice. So you will make mistakes. Practice and being willing to keep taking the risk to enter in difficult communications will teach you much. Look at your own shadows. What's triggered from your history? Who does this person remind you of? You can modify clean communication for any situation. I've already said that. When used in close relationship, it may take time to build that trust. It's brave to take a risk. These are my opinions. You might consider them data, but I think it is data. It's brave to take the risk to deal directly and honestly with someone we love, especially when we didn't learn how to do this in respectful and kind ways. Most challenging is often distinguishing data, warrior, what really happened, what did a fly on the wall see, with what we make up about ourselves or about the other person. And if we can distinguish those things, that's how we get in touch with those deep wounds, where we make up stories and we get scared when we're close to someone. Learning to own our behavior and our part in our communications with one another, not taking responsibility for the other person, teaches us maturity and to trust ourselves and how to be in relationships with others. It's really powerful when we know how to communicate, especially when we're hurt or when we're angry, so that we can feel like we have some tools to care well for ourselves. So communication is important. Most people have not had clean, kind, respectful, and honest communication modeled for them. Taking time to distinguish our past hurts and pain in conflict helps us to separate our past hurts from our current relationships. So that is a kind of an overview of sacred communication. Again, it's very consensual. Sometimes people say, no, I don't want to do a clearing with you. And, we deal with that too. We speak in I terms, really focus on our feelings, the data, what actually happened, the stories we make up, and take responsibility for asking for what we want, knowing we may or may not get it. So there you go. I don't know how that was for you, but I'm happy to share, and I'm going to open it up. I like to, when I facilitate a class, I like to have a couple of guidelines for you to speak in I terms, so you can have your feelings and you can communicate your opinion or whatever you want. And then I like to, before, except for the presenter, I'd like for everybody to just check in before anybody else speaks 2 or 3 times, just so we can be inclusive in that way, because some of us like to talk a lot, some of us like to hide a little bit. And if you don't have anything to say, you can just say I pass. So blessed be, and thank you for listening.
Thank you, Sally.
Come on in. You're
Charlie.
welcome.
I have a question.
Yes, sir. I'm going to turn up my volume. You have a question, Charlie?
Yeah, I came into this a little bit late, so would you remind us what sacred communications mean?
What it means? So did you see, did you get the 4 archetypes?
No, I missed that.
They're in the chat.
Okay.
Other than
Oh,
If you want to pick up the picture, it's in the chat.
hit the chat there.
and here it is, Charlie. I think I can get it up here. I don't see it now.
Arctic there.
Okay. So,
Sovereign,
sovereign.
Magician,
Magician.
sovereign, and lover.
so
I can't. You're getting that from the chat?
yeah, I got that.
Okay, good. I couldn't get back to you, so I said stop sharing. So the reason I call it sacred communication is because when there is conflict and difficulty in a relationship, in my opinion, that's an opportunity for intimacy. And it's really important to know how to communicate in such a way that rather than blaming the other or shaming the other or blaming ourselves or hurting ourselves, we take responsibility for what's going on here. And if we can do that and just meet someone, that doesn't mean, we sometimes confront people for certain behavior, but if we do it in a clean way, it can still be an opportunity to be connected in a more intimate way.
And how do you define responsibility?
I don't know when you came in because I was staring at those archetypes, but mostly we take responsibility for what we feel. We take responsibility for the stories we make up or our opinions that come into the communication. We take responsibility for what we want. So we really take responsibility for what's going on inside of us, our feelings, our thoughts, our behavior, and our wants.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Anybody else? Come on in.
B.
Yeah, so what do you do when someone doesn't follow these communication guidelines?
Well, and it happens, doesn't it? I actually had a conversation with a dear friend over the summer, and she has a lot of opinions of me, and she makes up a lot of, and she thinks her opinions are true. We have known each other a long time. And she gets angry, which, we all get angry, and there's some health in anger. But when she gets angry, she kind of attacks. So I think there's some fear under there, and there's some sadness under there that she covers immediately with anger. So I would say that it depends on the context. For example, this is a woman I've known for many, 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 many years. And one of the reasons we communicate when there's conflict is because we're committed to the relationship and we don't want anything in between, right? Our connection. So it was important enough to me. We had a conversation about it. And, she doesn't have the clean communication that I have in this regard. So because the relationship was important to me, I addressed it. But when I saw that, and this is what I make up, I wanted her to own what I made up. So I don't even know if it's true, only she could tell us. But because I love her and most of our relationship is very beautiful, I just let it go. So it just depends how important the relationship is to you. And what I said early on is you can do everything right in your communication and the other person just doesn't have the skills. So if they're not open to learning, that's for me an opportunity to accept, someone as they are. Or, sometimes relationships end for various reasons. And it might be when someone can't take responsibility and is always blaming the other person, people don't want to live in that situation. So it just depends. I think it's important for you to decide how important is and some things I let go, not many, because I'm high warrior. Let's do it. Let's get through this. But, so it depends on how we're wounded. Some of us don't know how to be in conflict. Some of us avoid it. Some of us like conflict. Some of us don't. So it just depends. But yeah, well, I don't know if that helped. The other thing is we always do the next right thing, right? And then you let go of the results. So it's also important for you to go into that situation knowing that you're going to communicate the best you can, but let go of any other expectations. Just be there and see what happens, as opposed to being attached to an outcome. Did that help at all?
It's your answer, but here's the second part of the question.
Mm-hmm.
So when are times that you've not been perfect in that, and how do you work with that within yourself when you've been caught off guard, or you're really tired, or you're already overstressed? What do you do for yourself when you don't communicate the way that you would ideally like in a moment?
I just make amends. I make amends to myself and the other person if I acted outside my own value systems. We make mistakes. But the way that I choose to live is, if I've done something against my own value system and hurt myself or someone else, I do my best to learn from that and make amends. I apologize. I said this, I was really angry, and I was scared, or whatever it happens to be. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah, that's an interesting question, because I've noticed when I've tried to confront people in a clean manner, and they can't or won't receive, I find that I try to meet them where they are, but I still take care of myself. I still go through the whole, I did it the best that I could. I said as many things as I was taught I might, and I left it out there, and they chose not to respond. And so that's when you decide whether to just let it go, or cut the cord, or change the relationship, the nature of the relationship.
Mm-hmm.
So the 4 archetypes, how do you decide on which archetype you are, and do you change from one to the other?
Well, according to what we believe about the archetypes, we all have those energies within us, right? I suppose we could all sit around for another 10 minutes and come up with 100 archetypes, but we use in shadow work those 4 archetypes. So we believe that we all have that energy within us. We also believe that we've all been wounded. And so do you switch from art? You can learn tools and skills. You can heal what's wounded and learn certain skills and practices to live better, to live the kind of life you want. But I don't think we really switch. We have in our shadow work community, she was a psychologist and he was a statistician. They're married, and they created, along with our shadow work founder, the shadow types survey. And what that shadow type survey does is it helps us. There are also 3 characteristics in each of the 4 archetypes. So again, I'm just skimming the surface. But when you get that survey back, you see, are you high lover, and in which area? Are you high warrior? Are you low this? Are you low that? And it's not me compared to you, it's me compared to me. Like inside of you, what's your normal go-to? And I've taken that survey probably 5 times in the last, I'd say almost 10 years, and I'm always the same thing. So we have these kind of natural tendencies, but we can certainly use tools and learn new practices from all the archetypes.
Thank you.
You can also make a comment. You don't have to ask a question.
Okay, I love making comments. Thank you for the invitation.
I was talking to the whole group, but I'd love to hear your comment too, Charles.
You may regret it. Anyway, it's interesting when you haven't seen somebody for a while and then you meet them. And
So
you,
Charlie, I'm gonna interrupt you right now.
okay,
And I'm gonna ask you to speak in I terms, because I think you're talking about an experience that you're having, right?
yeah, okay, I'll
Okay.
speak in I terms. Thank you.
Thank you.
When I meet a person I haven't seen for a while, I will imagine, I will remember what our last conversation was about. And so I will probably start with that. Or I'll remember what my feeling was about that person. I'll probably start with that. And I think the difficulty is I'll endeavor to want to get to a place where that doesn't get in the way, where we can kind of live in the moment, in the presence, and just deal with what is right now. That's the challenge for me.
Maybe. So you just shared your opinion with us, and I appreciate it. I appreciate that. And yeah, we carry around hurts that can get in the way, right, of our relationships with others. So yes, it's wonderful if we can, have a relationship with ourselves such that we say, okay, let's be in this moment here. That's a good practice too. I think you have something to say or ask, Kevin, because you look so pensive. I don't typically call on people, but I'm going to call on you.
It all comes down to communication. And I feel like I am all for, and I mean, we've talked about, we're all, or at least I am, all for archetypes. I'd be almost 3 sovereign, 3 warrior, 3 magician, and 1 lover, because I'm not a big lover, and it comes from everything I've experienced. You're right there. We have to own our words.
Yes, I'm gonna thank you for indulging me. I'm gonna ask you to speak for yourself, and you could even practice saying, I'm of the opinion that.
Well, I own my words. I was
Okay,
taught
good.
that years ago, that to be an effective leader, I had to own my words and believe what I say. The difference between dogma and faith is dogma is something you're told to believe. Faith is something that you believe. And so I always try to, and I'm not, Lord knows I'm not perfect. And I mean, the other day I raised my voice and I really shouldn't have. And it's because I was just so put out by the conversation. And then I had to look at myself and figure out, okay, why did that trigger? And understand where that trigger. And a lot of it is self-evaluation. And if I don't understand myself, I can't understand others. So, I come at it with that kind of an approach. And I'm not the be all and end all, although there are times I wish I was. But I'm not. I think it's really important for people to understand their shadows and try to work on them. And you know, I love the 4 archetypes, and I mean it breaks it down and is easy to digest kind of
Mhm.
thing, or at least
is,
I
yeah.
find it
I
easy
agree.
to digest.
Yeah.
Because I've heard of shadow work in the past, and it kind of went over my head. I don't know why. I just wasn't catching it. And then I saw a video the other day, and it was simplistic enough that I understood. And I never understood shadow work, and then all of a sudden I realized it's, you're gonna get tired of me talking about it, but the coming out process, when you realize that you're not traditional heterosexual, and you really have to evaluate yourself and know who you are and what you feel, and because the ramifications of that. Now I'm kind of, I think, getting off topic, but it's I've enjoyed this presentation, and you're right, I was pensive because I think a lot.
You're high magician, I would say. If I gave you the shadow work survey, I'd say high magician. Awareness is all from the magician. How do we see it? What's the perspective? How do we understand it? Strategize. Yeah.
Yeah, because I overly analyze things,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
I'm not sure if that's brain damage or what it is, but it's to a great extent, it serves me well, or it gives me peace, and it also teaches, bears what I probably have to work on.
Well, if we don't have awareness, we're not able to change if we want to or seek transformation. So, yeah. Thank you, Sally or Paula or Debbie. And beautiful Charlie's beautiful woman. I forgot your name. I apologize.
Her name's Bobby.
Bobby, that's right. BOBBI. Okay. So does anyone who hasn't whose voice hasn't been heard wish to speak or ask a question? Come on in, Paula.
Sally, I'm just going to ask you a question.
Oh.
About excuse me, Paula, and I'll let you turn over to you. Are you talking about the shadow in the traditional Jungian concept?
Yes.
Okay, I wasn't
So
sure that's what you're talking about.
yes, so I am teaching one itty bitty tiny little bit of how we have been trained as shadow work facilitators. We also talk about how can you recognize your own shadows.
Yeah, I was just concerned about the topic. I mean, they use the word, so you are using that in the traditional Jungian manner, which means shadow's kind of the opposite side of us.
The shadow is the opposite side?
Or the other side of us.
I don't know if I would say it that way or share that opinion. Of course, Carl Jung, I think, informs everybody who does work in shadow work, but the particular training that I have, if you go to shadowwork.com, that's how I have been trained. We take these archetypes. Of course, Jung was very into the archetypes too. So, but this was developed by a man named Cliff Berry with, the women that have supported him. And he took this training and developed all these processes and took these 4 archetypes. I think there was a book by Robert, I can't remember his name, 2 men, Inner King, and they talked about the archetypes as well. So that's where this comes from. I talked a lot. I don't know. Did that make sense?
Yes, that makes sense.
Okay.
I just wanted to clarify that you were using the term shadow in the Jungian sense, then it sounds as if you are.
Yeah, the part of us that we hide and deny, yes, unaware of, yeah.
The disavowed self. I believe that's what you called it one time.
Yeah. Thanks. Paula?
I think I'm definitely the warrior, always have been. But when I first was confronted with the fact that we don't like in others what we don't like in ourselves, I rebelled. It's like, no, that can't be. That's not, I wouldn't do that. Yet I was extremely judgmental. I was brought up to be judgmental. And when I finally sat down with that and said, oh yeah, I do that. It was an eye opener. It does it always work for me? No, because I forget. But most of the time, as soon as I get a feeling I don't like this person, I will sit down and say, all right, what are they triggering? Which wound did they hit? Which button did they get? And what can I do about it? And that can happen in the process of 30 seconds, especially when I was at work, because there were a lot of people that were not like me. But they were good people. It didn't make them bad people. They weren't like me. But, you know, looking at the differences of opinion and the difference of personalities, I learned to adjust. I learned that there were some people you had to confront because that's the only way they would listen. I heard to go around the backside of some people and deal with their shadows. And then I had to fight with my own. But I would say if I had to choose, I would say I have always been a warrior. I enjoy being a warrior, even though I don't enjoy confrontation. But warrior suits me to a T. And Sally could probably yay say that. And that's all I got to say.
If I may, may I respond to what
Yes.
you just, yeah, I also think you're high sovereign. Sovereign, sovereign is, again, every archetype that I showed you, sovereign, lover, warrior, and magician, has 3 different components. I would say you're a very high foster, you're a fosterer.
Mm.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
support and bless others. Yeah. And so you've got some magician too, because I know you've had to study and learn to be a nurse.
Yes.
Yeah. So anyway, the end. Sally, did you want to say something or?
Or if we're talking about what we think maybe we are, I'm probably a pretty strong combination of the lover and the magician. I I really like to understand the complexities of a situation or how things work. Okay. I've always been nosy that way. I want to know how things work. But I'm I'm empathic, and my first reaction is always emotion. Is always emotional. I see the world in an emotional way, not oh, I cry at the drop of a hat, although I do sometimes, but it's I see the love everywhere I look. Okay. I feel that. I feel people's vibes, if you will. It's a 70s term, 60s term, but it's true. We all have them. And so I relate to the world on a very emotional level. I don't feel like I'm immersed in that, but I feel it from sort of a distance. But that combined with wanting to know how situations and people and things tick is very important to me so that I can understand the emotions that I'm feeling.
Absolutely.
That's pretty much how I operate. And I don't feel like I very seldom allow myself to get embroiled in the situation or in the emotions, and Paula can attest to that. We have a person that we know who's very, very, very broken. And we've been spending the last year trying to help her. And she's resisting, and she just, she's making it extraordinarily hard on herself and on us. And I'm trying to remain distant from it, from her turmoil. So
That's your magician. That is detaching,
yeah,
right?
yeah, I do that a lot so
Yeah,
that I can then understand and then perhaps help
And be
or
of
walk
service.
away.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's,
Yeah.
those are very important archetypes that they've come up with, that you work with. And they're very effective. Once you're in a situation, and once you stop and think, okay, all right, what's going on here? Which one am I in this? And what tools do I have to work with? Okay, you talk on their tools.
Lots
What
of
are my
them.
tools? What are available
Mhm.
to me in this
Mhm.
situation? And that helps a lot.
Yeah. Lover has 3 components. One is releaser. That's probably you. Me too. I release easily. I'm so grateful for that. So I can release easily. The other is relier, and the other is yielder. I am not a relier or a yielder. So I work to have access to those. But, every archetype you can be high in one aspect of the archetype and not in the other.
Yeah, I'm a releaser.
Yeah, me too. Me too. Yeah. High warrior, high releaser. I have a high quester too. That's always, that's part of sovereign. Debbie, did you want to say anything? Sally, did you want to say something else?
Mm-mm. No, I'm
Okay.
done. I'm done.
No, I'm just sitting here observing.
Okay.
I've had my head, I've been studying all morning. I signed up for another herbalism class because one just isn't enough for me, apparently. And I've had my head, he's going into Ayurvedic medicine, so my brain is like out there somewhere.
Yeah, that's all right.
Today.
Well, we can go through another. I think, I don't know who missed it. I think Bobby and Charlie missed it for sure, but we started with a meditation. Now that you maybe have a little more understanding, we can also close with an archetypal meditation, unless someone has another question or comment.
Thank you very much for this.
Welcome.
I did some shadow work a long time ago, many, many years ago, probably going back 20 years.
With
And this
whom?
brings back a lot of
Mhm.
those. I'm remembering a lot of those skills from this. So thank you very much.
You're
It's
welcome.
Thank you.
very, very, very timely for all of us.
Oh,
Thank you, Sally.
yeah, you're welcome.
One
You're
last question. The 60 years ago, there was a radio program called The Shadow. Do you know that one?
I think
Yeah.
I've heard it. Wasn't it long? Did you say 6 years or 60?
60.
Yeah, that's what I thought. No,
Yeah,
I was 2.
I remember it.
Yeah, the theme of it was interesting. Alan Cranston was the narrator, and he'd start the show by saying, "What evil lurks in the minds of men, only the shadow knows."
Yes, well, we can't have light without shadow. So it's really good to, I think, learn the paradox. I like seeing goodness in all of it, and there's paradox in everything. So, but okay, well, I'll take you through the archetypes. Maybe you have a little more of an understanding now. So I'd ask you you're welcome to close your eyes if you'd like to, or keep them open. It's up to you. And just take another deep breath in through your nose. Just let yourself breathe and be in the moment. And in your mind's eye, see yourself facing east, the direction of lover. the element of water, the gift of connecting to yourself with your breath, with your body, with your emotions. The lover part of you that likes to play, helps you to connect. And just take a deep breath in and remember that lover is inside of you to access at any time. Another deep breath and turn right so you're facing south. This is your warrior self, the part of you that gets shit done, the part of you that knows what belongs to you and what does not. Your warrior self has good boundaries. Your warrior self knows how to care well for the lover within you, the inner child. Let's feel your feet on the ground, the element of earth. Take a deep breath, remembering your lover and your warrior both live within you, and you can access them when needed. And with that deep breath in your mind's eye, turn right again, facing west. This is our magician self, the part of us that strategizes, that detaches, that stays aware. The part of us that knows how to transform a situation to receive the gift of wisdom. The emotion of fear lives here, and when we walk through our fear, the gift is discernment. The gift is wisdom. Every emotion has a gift. Just remember your magician self is inside of you. When you need to detach or change perspectives, you know how to do that. Your magician connects with your lover, connects with your warrior. When they work together, just take a deep breath and turn in your mind's eye to the north. They serve our sovereign self, the part of us that has vision, the part of us that knows what we want, the part of us, the element of fire, the emotion of joy. When we're in our sovereign, we know how to bless and support others. And in our sovereign self, we too know that we deserve to receive blessing and support. We take a deep breath in, welcoming our sovereign, our lover, our warrior, our magician self. Going to open your eyes if they were closed, or come on back. Thank you, everybody.
That was beautiful.
Sally, that was
Sally.
great. Thank
Thank
you.
you, Sally.
Thank you.
Welcome. Thank you for listening. Okay, I turn it back to Mickey, I guess. I turn it back to you.
That was an awesome session. Thank you.
Mhm.
So for next week, we need a topic. We're going to have next week as a regular Sunday service, and then the following week an ordination. So we will be ordaining at least Sally and maybe B. Let's talk about that, B, sometime this week. Right. Any topic requests for next week? Anybody itching?
Yeah, the topic request would be, what is the meaning of ordination?
Ooh.
But I won't be here.
We'll record it.
Okay, good. That's good.
Yeah.
That's good. Thank you.
So what is the meaning of ordination? Okay. That's good leading up. Will you lead that, Charlie?
I'll facilitate the discussion. I expect everybody to bring into it their opinions and their
Yeah.
ideas about ordination and their feelings. Bring your feelings.
Yeah. Awesome. All right. Thank you so much. It was beautiful being with you all today.
Thank
See you next week.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Blessed week.